Most people do not fear routine maintenance. They understand that an SUV needs oil changes, tires, brakes, and an occasional battery. What they fear is the unexpected phone call from the repair shop, the one where the mechanic pauses before giving you the total. A failed transmission, a damaged turbocharger, an electrical problem that takes 3 days to diagnose, or a repair so expensive that you start wondering whether the vehicle is even worth keeping. And here is the uncomfortable truth. A new SUV can look affordable when you focus only on the monthly payment. But the real cost begins after the warranty expires. That is when complicated engines, neglected transmissions, expensive electronics, and poor resale value can turn a seemingly smart purchase into a financial trap. Today, we are ranking 5 SUVs for people who hate surprise repair bills. These are not necessarily the fastest SUVs, they are not the most luxurious, and they are not completely immune to mechanical problems. No vehicle is. But each one offers a combination of dependable engineering, reasonable maintenance, widely available parts, and a strong chance of remaining economically repairable as it gets older. There is one important rule before we begin. The exact configuration matters. A simple naturally aspirated engine can be less risky than the more powerful turbo version of the same SUV. A standard suspension can be less expensive to own than an adaptive one. Smaller wheels usually mean cheaper tires, and a vehicle with 20 optional electronic features gives you 20 more things that could eventually stop working. The badge matters, but the version you choose may matter even more. Let's begin with number 5. Number 5. Subaru Forester. The Subaru Forester earns a place on this list because it delivers something many owners value more than horsepower or technology. Predictability. The Forester is designed around practicality. It offers excellent visibility, a comfortable seating position, useful interior space, and standard all-wheel drive. It is the kind of vehicle people buy because they need dependable transportation through rain, snow, rural roads, and everyday family life. But we need to be honest about why it ranks 5th instead of 1st. The Forester is not mechanically simple in the same way as a basic front-wheel drive crossover. Its permanent all-wheel drive system means more drivetrain components are operating whenever the vehicle moves. It also uses a continuously variable transmission. That combination can be reliable when it is maintained correctly, but it is less forgiving of neglect. This is the Forester's biggest ownership lesson. The vehicle often does not create surprise repair bills by itself. The surprise usually begins years earlier, when an owner ignores fluid maintenance, drives with badly mismatched tires, or repeatedly delays small repairs. On an all-wheel drive SUV, all 4 tires need to remain relatively similar in size and wear. Replacing only one tire after the others are heavily worn can create differences in rolling circumference. Over time, those differences can place unnecessary stress on the drivetrain. That means tire maintenance is not only about safety, it is part of protecting the all-wheel drive system. The transmission also deserves attention. Some owners hear the phrase lifetime fluid and assume the transmission never needs service, but vehicles do not know what a marketing department considers a lifetime. Heat, mileage, towing, hills, and stop-and-go traffic all affect fluid condition. An owner planning to keep a Forester beyond 100,000 miles should discuss preventative transmission service with a qualified Subaru technician instead of waiting for the vehicle to develop symptoms. The standard engine is usually the more conservative choice for someone who prioritizes predictable costs. You may not get dramatic acceleration, but you also avoid adding unnecessary performance hardware. The Forester is especially appealing for older drivers because it is easy to enter, easy to see out of, and relatively easy to position on the road. That matters financially. People sometimes replace perfectly functional SUVs because they become uncomfortable or difficult to use. A vehicle that remains practical through different stages of life can save you from purchasing another one prematurely. But before buying a used Forester, service history is critical. Look for evidence that the oil was changed consistently. Check that all 4 tires match. Test the transmission after the SUV is fully warm. Listen for wheel-bearing noise. Inspect underneath for leaks and corrosion. The Forester can be a dependable long-term companion, but it rewards owners who pay attention. If you want an SUV that can handle difficult weather and you are willing to maintain the drivetrain correctly, it is a strong choice. If you want a vehicle you can neglect for 10 years without consequences, keep watching. The SUVs ahead of it are more forgiving. Number 4. Lexus RX. At number 4, we have the Lexus RX, and this might seem like a strange choice for a list about avoiding repair bills. Luxury vehicles are normally more expensive to maintain. They have more sensors, larger wheels, complex lighting systems, powered interior components, and expensive body parts. A damaged headlight on a luxury SUV can cost significantly more than a similar repair on a mainstream vehicle. A powered seat motor can fail, a parking sensor can produce warning messages, and a minor collision can become surprisingly expensive because of the cameras and radar equipment built into the front of the vehicle. So why is the Lexus RX here? Because underneath the luxury features, many RX models are built around Toyota engineering. That gives the RX an important advantage over many European luxury SUVs. The engine, hybrid system, and major mechanical components are generally designed with long-term usability in mind rather than maximum performance. The smartest RX for someone who hates unexpected repair bills is usually not the most powerful version. It is the one with the most mature and least aggressive powertrain. A naturally aspirated or well-established hybrid configuration can make more sense than a high-performance turbocharged model with additional complexity. The RX Hybrid is particularly interesting because Toyota and Lexus have extensive experience with hybrid systems. The electric motors assist the gasoline engine, regenerative braking reduces some wear on the conventional brakes, and the electronically controlled transmission avoids many of the traditional shifting components found in a normal automatic gearbox. But hybrid ownership still requires realistic expectations. The high-voltage battery will not last forever. It may operate for many years and very high mileage, but eventually age, temperature, and usage can affect its condition. The difference is that hybrid battery replacement is usually a predictable aging concern rather than a completely random mechanical failure. A buyer can plan for that possibility. The more unpredictable expenses often come from the luxury equipment surrounding the powertrain. That is why configuration matters so much. Large wheels may look better, but the tires cost more and offer less protection against pothole damage. Complicated adaptive suspension systems can improve ride quality, but they can also become expensive later. Extra powered features are convenient until one of them stops working. A simpler RX can be a much better long-term purchase than a heavily optioned version. There is another advantage. Lexus vehicles often attract owners who follow maintenance schedules carefully. That can make the used market stronger, but you still need to verify the history. A clean interior does not prove that the engine oil was changed. A polished exterior does not prove that the cooling system was maintained, and a luxury dealership service record does not automatically mean every recommendation was followed. Get a professional inspection. Scan the vehicle for stored electronic faults. Test every interior feature. Confirm that the hybrid system operates smoothly. Listen for suspension noises. The Lexus RX is not inexpensive to repair when something does go wrong. That is why it cannot rank higher. But compared with many luxury SUVs, it offers a much better chance of avoiding catastrophic drivetrain expenses. It is the choice for someone who wants comfort and refinement without accepting the financial risk associated with many high-performance luxury vehicles. Just remember one rule: buy the Lexus for its engineering, not for the longest list of optional equipment. Number 3. Mazda CX-5. At number 3 is the Mazda CX-5, and its strongest advantage is something many buyers overlook because it does not sound exciting: mechanical familiarity. For years, the CX-5 has been available with a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine and a traditional 6-speed automatic transmission. That is a very different formula from the small turbocharged engines and complicated multi-speed gearboxes becoming common across the industry. A naturally aspirated engine does not use a turbocharger to force additional air into the cylinders. That means less heat, less pressure, and one fewer expensive component sitting near the engine. A traditional automatic transmission also behaves in a familiar way. It has real gear changes and does not depend on the belt and pulley design used in many conventional, continuously variable transmissions. None of this makes the CX-5 indestructible, but it gives long-term owners fewer major systems to worry about. This is where the naturally aspirated CX-5 makes more sense than the turbo version for someone who hates repair surprises. The turbocharged model is faster. It provides stronger acceleration and more torque. But performance always comes from somewhere. A turbocharger creates additional heat and pressure. It depends heavily on clean oil, and if it eventually needs replacement, the repair will not be inexpensive. The standard engine may feel slower when the SUV is loaded with passengers or climbing a steep road. But slower is not always worse. A modest engine that performs the same job for many years may be more valuable than a powerful engine that creates additional maintenance risk. The CX-5 also benefits from relatively conventional controls and a cabin that does not try to replace every physical function with a touchscreen. That may not sound like a reliability feature, but it is. The more important functions that depend on one central screen, the more frustrating the vehicle becomes if that screen develops a problem. The Mazda is not perfect. Direct injection engines can develop deposits over time, especially when oil changes are neglected or the vehicle is driven mostly on very short trips. All-wheel drive versions add additional components and require proper tire maintenance. Suspension components, wheel bearings and engine mounts will still wear as mileage increases, and the CX-5 is not always the most spacious SUV in its class. But the potential repair costs are generally understandable. That is the key difference. A worn suspension component is not the same as an unexplained electronic fault that requires hours of diagnostic labor. A normal automatic transmission service is easier to understand than a complicated hybridized dual-clutch system. The CX-5's problems, when they occur, are often conventional vehicle problems. For many owners, that is comforting. To reduce the ownership risk even further, choose the naturally aspirated engine. Use smaller wheels. Avoid unnecessary performance options. Change the oil consistently. Do not ignore transmission fluid. And inspect the vehicle carefully if you are buying used. The CX-5 ranks third because it offers one of the most straightforward mechanical packages in the compact SUV category. It may not save as much fuel as the hybrids ahead of it. But for drivers who want traditional engineering and predictable maintenance, it is one of the safest choices. Number 2. Honda CR-V. The Honda CR-V takes second place because it combines long-term practicality with a strong history of remaining useful at high mileage. That word, useful, is important. A vehicle can have a reliable engine and still become a bad long-term purchase if it is too small, uncomfortable, or inefficient for the owner's life. The CR-V avoids that problem. It offers generous passenger space, a large cargo area, good fuel economy, and a size that remains manageable in urban driving. It works for commuters. It works for families. It works for road trips. And it is comfortable enough that many owners are willing to keep it long after the original loan has been paid. But there is a decision to make. Gasoline or hybrid? The gasoline CR-V commonly uses a small turbocharged engine with a continuously variable transmission. The hybrid uses a naturally aspirated gasoline engine combined with Honda's electric motor system. For the buyer focused on avoiding surprise repair bills, the hybrid may be the more appealing long-term configuration, especially when most driving occurs in the city. The electric motors handle much of the low-speed work. Regenerative braking can reduce conventional brake wear. And the gasoline engine does not depend on a turbocharger. But the hybrid also includes a high-voltage battery and additional electrical components. That means the correct choice depends on how you drive. A city driver who spends hours in stop-and-go traffic can benefit significantly from the hybrid system. A highway driver covering long distances at constant speed may not recover the higher purchase price as quickly. The gasoline model can still be dependable, but turbocharged engines are especially sensitive to neglected oil changes. Clean oil is not optional. The turbocharger spins at extremely high speed and operates under intense heat. Delaying maintenance to save a small amount of money can create a much larger expense later. The transmission also deserves preventative care. A continuously variable transmission does not shift like a conventional automatic, but it still uses specialized fluid. Owners who plan to keep the CR-V for many years should not assume that transmission maintenance can be ignored forever. The CR-V's greatest strength is that major repairs usually make economic sense for longer than they would on a less desirable vehicle. Imagine two older SUVs that both need suspension work. One has poor resale value, limited interior space and expensive parts. The other is a CR-V with strong demand, affordable replacement components and another several years of practical life remaining. Spending money on the CR-V is easier to justify. That is a major part of avoiding financial surprises. The repair itself may not be avoidable, but you are less likely to feel trapped between spending thousands of dollars and abandoning a vehicle that no longer meets your needs. Used CRV buyers still need to be careful. A Honda badge does not guarantee proper maintenance. Look for oil change records, test the air conditioning, listen for suspension noise, inspect the tires for uneven wear. Check that every warning light illuminates when the vehicle starts and then turns off correctly. A missing warning light can be more concerning than an active one because someone may have attempted to hide a problem. The CRV takes second because it combines reliability, efficiency, practicality, and strong parts availability. But there is one SUV that offers an even more convincing formula for buyers who want to reduce ownership anxiety. Number 1. Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. The number one SUV for people who hate surprise repair bills is the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, and the reason is not that it never breaks. It will need tires, it will need brakes, its suspension will wear, the 12-volt battery will eventually fail, and at extremely high mileage, the hybrid battery may become an expense. But the RAV4 Hybrid offers something more valuable than the promise of zero repairs. It offers a relatively predictable ownership pattern. Toyota has been developing hybrid systems for decades. The gasoline engine, electric motors and planetary gear system work together without using a conventional stepped automatic transmission. There is no traditional belt-driven CVT. There are no normal gear changes involving a large collection of clutch packs. The system continuously manages power between the engine and electric motors. That is why the engine can sometimes sound strange under hard acceleration. It may rise to a fixed speed and remain there while the vehicle continues gaining momentum. Some drivers dislike the sound. But the mechanical design has fewer traditional shifting events and fewer wear components than many conventional automatic transmissions. The gasoline engine is also assisted by the electric system. At low speeds, the electric motors can move the SUV or reduce the load placed on the engine. During braking, the motors recover energy and return it to the battery. That process can reduce wear on the conventional brakes, particularly for drivers who spend significant time in city traffic. The RAV4 Hybrid also avoids a turbocharger. That removes one major source of heat, pressure, and future repair expense. But the real advantage is not any single component. It is the complete ecosystem around the vehicle. Toyota sells a large number of RAV4s. That means replacement parts are widely available. Many independent repair shops understand the platform. Used components can be easier to locate, and strong resale value makes it financially reasonable to repair the vehicle even when it gets older. Suppose your 10-year-old SUV needs $2,000 worth of work. That repair feels very different depending on the vehicle's value. If the SUV is worth only $4,000, spending $2,000 feels dangerous. But if a well-maintained RAV4 still has strong resale value and could provide several more years of transportation, the same repair may be an intelligent financial decision. That is why depreciation is part of reliability. A vehicle that retains value gives you more options when something eventually needs attention. The RAV4 Hybrid is not perfect. First-year redesigns can introduce software or electronic problems even when the powertrain is mature. The hybrid battery cooling system needs to remain clean. Owners who carry pets should pay particular attention to hair and dirt near the battery air intake. All-wheel drive versions still need properly matched tires. And sophisticated driver assistance sensors can make collision repairs more expensive. The vehicle can also produce more cabin noise under acceleration than some competitors. Interior materials may not feel luxurious, and you may pay a higher purchase price because demand remains strong. But those are easier compromises to accept than an unreliable transmission or an engine that demands expensive repairs shortly after the warranty expires. For the lowest risk ownership experience, keep the configuration sensible, choose smaller wheels, avoid unnecessary accessories, follow the maintenance schedule, change the engine oil on time, keep the hybrid cooling intake clean. Do not ignore unusual noises or warning lights. And when buying used, prioritize service history over appearance. A scratched RAV4 with complete maintenance records may be a safer purchase than a perfectly detailed one with no documentation. The RAV4 hybrid wins because it balances fuel economy, mechanical maturity, resale value, parts availability, and everyday usefulness better than the other vehicles on this list. It is not the most exciting SUV. It is not the quietest. It is not the most luxurious. But for someone who wants to drive to work every morning without wondering which warning light will appear next, that may be exactly the point. Final verdict. Here is the final ranking. At number 5, the Subaru Forester. It offers excellent visibility, standard all-wheel drive, and strong everyday practicality, but its drivetrain requires careful tire and fluid maintenance. At number 4, the Lexus RX. It provides Toyota-based engineering and luxury comfort, but optional equipment and premium replacement parts can become expensive as the vehicle ages. At number 3, the Mazda CX-5. Its naturally aspirated engine and conventional 6-speed automatic create one of the most straightforward mechanical formulas in the segment. At number 2, the Honda CR-V. It combines a strong ownership history with excellent space, efficiency, and parts availability. The hybrid is particularly attractive for city drivers. And at number 1, the Toyota RAV4 hybrid. Its mature hybrid architecture, lack of a turbocharger, strong resale value, and large repair network make it the most predictable overall choice. But there is one final point you should remember. Avoiding surprise repair bills does not mean avoiding every repair. A reliable vehicle still needs money spent on it. The difference is whether those expenses are normal, manageable, and worth paying. Oil changes are predictable, tires are predictable, brake pads are predictable, suspension wear at high mileage is predictable. A reliable SUV gives you the opportunity to plan for those costs. An unreliable SUV surprises you with a repair that is larger than your emergency fund and arrives before you have recovered from the previous one. That is the real objective. Not finding a machine that never needs maintenance. Finding one that does not constantly punish you for owning it. And now I want to hear from you. Which SUV has given you the fewest repair problems? And which vehicle surprised you with the most expensive repair bill? Tell us the model, year, mileage, and what failed. Because in the next video, we are ranking 7 compact SUVs from worst to best for long-term ownership, and one of the most popular models may finish much lower than its sales numbers suggest.